You know, there's something about classic Gothic horror that really hits the spot. It, like, hits a certain aesthetic that many moviegoers today just don't feel like gets replicated all too much in the modern day. Not even when they actually try to remake a film that came from this era, this ancient era of a bygone time, do they really, truly do it justice. I would say not even Bram Stoker's Dracula came too entirely close to replicating the aesthetic of what makes Gothic horror Gothic horror. Though Bram Stoker's Dracula is a very good film, it is a very well made film, it's just not my favorite Dracula film. Some of the costume designs are a little bit over the top, some of the actors are a little bit miscast, and their accents are a little not exactly era appropriate. But what if we get somebody in here who knows what they're doing and really studies the era, gets era appropriate lighting, gets era appropriate lenses and filters for the little camera lenses they got. They get outfits that fit the attire, fit the period. They film it in locations with buildings that fit the time period. It's got the atmosphere that feels like this old school horror, Gothic horror, but unrestrained by the censorship and genteel values of the ancient world of cinema. And we get a film like Nosferatu by Robert Eggers. Now, I've shown you this 50-film classic horror set before. I have. I've shown you this one before, and we've looked on the back, and I've shown you that Nosferatu is on here. The original Nosferatu is on here. And so I have seen both Nosferatu versions. I have not seen the 80s one, though. I believe there was like a, 70s or an 80s remake of Nosferatu. I haven't seen that one. But I've seen the original, and now I have seen the latest version. And I can honestly tell you that Nosferatu, while adding a bunch of things, such as a lot of scenes that probably would never, ever, 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 ever get made in the 20s, outside of maybe a stag film, private showing or something, it was able to put in some of that stuff into an actual movie, and I would say that Nosferatu captures Gothic horror in a way that most films that try to fail. Nosferatu feels like a Gothic horror at its very core. Most of the actors are acting very well. They feel like they're reading scripts from a play. It almost feels like it's what a stage play experience on the big screen, which is how a lot of the old talkies of the 30s felt like. People were just reading it like it was a stage play, acting it like it was a stage play, but were filming it like it's a film. It was very good. It was a very satisfying experience to watch Nosferatu, though I do have a little bit of problems with it. Eggers takes a few liberties with the appearance of Count Orlok, and gives him an appearance that does not match this one right here. I prefer this kind of look, even though in the 20s this is just a budget costume. They couldn't actually get maybe what they actually really wanted. So maybe Eggers did some research into that and how they really wanted Count Orlok to look, and said, you know, we have the ability to do that now, so let's go ahead and do that. But honestly, I prefer that classic Orlok look over this new Orlok look. This new Orlok looks like some Eastern European lord zombie. He's a zombie man. He's a zombie. He doesn't really feel like a vampire, though he bites people in the chest and drinks their blood and all of that stuff. That's fine. But he doesn't really feel like a zombie. He feels like a plague. He feels like that guy in Courage the Cowardly Dog asking for Eustace Baggs to return the slab, or you'll suffer my curse with the curses of crickets and loud noise speakers playing loud annoying music and then floods and all this other stuff going on. So, Count Orlok has come to London to ask for Renfield to return the slab. Renfield, played by What's-His-Face from Renfield with Nicolas Cage, is not Renfield in Nosferatu, though he is in both Nosferatu and Renfield, both Dracula and the film Knocking Off Dracula as two completely different characters. So, backstory on Nosferatu. Nosferatu was made in the 20s without paying the widow of Bram Stoker, since Bram Stoker's wife was actually still alive when they were making the film. They never got the rights to make the film. They never paid the widow money to use the property that her husband created. And so when they made the film anyway, so that they didn't have to pay for the rights, they changed the name from Dracula to Nosferatu. They changed the name of Count Dracula to Count Orlok. They changed the location from London to somewhere in Germany. They did a lot of name changes and all of that stuff, but it was still overall the exact same story at its core fundamental components. And so, Bram Stoker's widow, she looked at the film and she took him to court and she won. She beat them so completely, and the courts demanded that every film copy of Nosferatu be destroyed. However, some of them made it into the States, and the people of the States decided, you know what, we don't want to listen to you guys. We don't want to destroy this thing. Let's keep it around. And so Nosferatu was spared complete and total destruction in the States, and there we have the classic version of Nosferatu that we get to enjoy today on classic film compilation bundle packs like my 50 film collection, or you could just go onto YouTube and Google Nosferatu and watch the silent film, since a large majority of the silent film era is in the public domain now, so you could just go ahead and watch it right now, and nobody's going to be able to stop you. Absolutely nobody could stop you. It's public domain. It's there for you to watch. This one's not public domain, but the other one is. The other one, the first one, the original one. That one's public. This one is still under copyright, so you can't do that. But it's still a very fun time, even though it is based off of a story that ripped off the Dracula story. Robert Eggers seemed to take Nosferatu, the silent film, and turn it into his own masterpiece. He turned it into his own story. It does still feel like you're watching something very familiar, but at the same time, that ending feels like it's something that you've never seen before. It's a new ending, so as to say. And it's still very satisfying to watch, even then. Because classic horror, classic Universal monsters, the Hammer horrors, the Roger Corman classics of the 40s and 50s and 60s, there are a lot of great gothic horror out there, and this one feels like it belongs in that set. It's just made recently. Honestly, I would love, and I do absolutely positively mean love, a black and white version of Nosferatu. I think a black and white version should exist and should be released, because that would be absolutely incredible to see. Not a blue filter, but a black and white one. And it would be great. It really would. I think we need more gothic horror movies like this made. I think we need more of them. I showed one off a couple weeks ago, The Cursed. That was a werewolf story that was changed up, very changed the lore of the werewolf story, but it made it interesting. It was one of the best gothic horror films I had ever seen in a long time, at least a modern one, a modern attempt at gothic horror. And I think we need one. We need a gothic horror revival. We need to make movies that were made forever ago and make them today in a modern gothic horror lens. I think there's a market for it. I think the horror fans are going to gobble it up and love it deliciously, because we've gotten oversaturated by modern day horror films set in modern day. Let's go back in time to the Victorian era. Let's go back in time and make gothic horror again, because if Robert Eggers can do it, I think a lot of other people can too. Go watch Nosferatu. It is a great time.